One of the reasons why I think it's hard to change is because I genuinely think that change is like an addiction. Now, hear me out. I've been reading recently a book by a person named Joe Dispenza, and this book is called Breaking the Habits of Being Yourself. Now, when I was reading this book or rereading it, rereading this book, what I have found is one of the reasons why it's hard to actually change that vision you see yourself to be, that where you want to go into, the person you want to become. Why is it so hard to make that change? It's because when you are making that change, your body kind of rejects it. And sure, you can go through discipline, you can go through struggle to make a change. Yes, you can do that, and that can shift you, that can change you. But what I've discovered through the book and also the experiences I have experienced or have experienced is the reason why it's so hard to change is because we are generally, and this can't go for everyone, but for people out there who resonate with this, are addicted to the familiar. And you might be thinking like addiction, like what do you mean by addiction? That the familiar, the patterns of even just the subconscious thoughts that you might be having that you not even aware of. You are literally addicted to it, and it's almost like a drug, which is described in the book. Because when you are trying to break the habit of being your familiar self, it's hard to come out of it because when you start to make that change, the subconscious mind will try to grip you back and go, What do you think you're doing? Like, what do you think you're doing? It's not safe." And so it will drag you back and try to find any kind of thought, fear, belief, or even just a habit that might kick in to send you back into this familiar safe zone, if you will, that keeps you almost bounded into that familiarity. Because the mind thinks of the unfamiliar, the change, as danger. And it thinks of something that's, even though you want it, you're not familiarized with it, and thus it creates this sense that the unknown is fearful because you don't know, you're not familiarized with it, and therefore it's something that can be dangerous to you. It's almost like the immune system fight or flight mechanism kicking in, which is doing its job, but in reality it's just the mind trying to hijack you, trying to keep you into that safe zone when you want to make that jump into that version of yourself that you want to become. Now, how do we actually make that change? Of course, consistency does kick in. When people talk about the self development and I don't know, being David Goggin, say hard, just do it. That can work to an extent, but that's not always going to work if you're not aware of what's actually going on in the eternal world. If you're not actually realizing what's happening with your subconscious thoughts and belief systems, then you'll just go right back to square one. Like literally, you will go back to the familiar because something might feel off. And if you're not aware of that thought, that feeling, then you're going to keep going through the same circle or the same cycle until you become aware of that. And after that, then you could actually start making that change, that jump, and that where that discipline and that mindset will come in play. Because yes, like I said, you can change yourself. Mindset is a factor. Discipline can be a factor, and also self love. But if you're not aware of those subconscious thoughts, even habits that try to hijack you and put you back, then you're not going to make that change until you realize that you need to be aware of these thoughts that are fearing the change. They're not wanting to allow you to make the jump when you actually want to. and something that I've experienced when I want to make that jump and actually become more like, for example, I wanted to always do YouTube, but every time I would try to make a video, I was in my self development. I would guess you can call it the self development arc. Become David Goggins. Stay hard. Just go through it. Don't be a bitch. Don't just don't. Who cares about the struggle? Just go bypass the pain. Become hard. The problem with that is when I was doing that, when I tried to make a YouTube video, the fear would kick in, and literally I kept sabotaging myself to the point where I wouldn't. I would just go back to old habits. Uh, my thoughts would go back to the familiar, and I wouldn't produce more videos like I'm trying to produce now. And this is back in 2023, 2022, and 2023, where I wasn't really making as much videos. I took a whole year not to make it because of my self sabotage and my thoughts wanting me to be safe in the familiar. But once you realize that the thoughts that you're having that are keeping you there, they're bounded, and overcoming that fear, then you can make that change.